p.m. This is a regular meeting of the governing body of the Borough of Bloomingdale, Tuesday, April 15, 2014. I ask everyone to please rise to salute our nation's flag, and if everyone will remain standing for a moment of silence in honor and memory of those lost last year, a year ago today, that lost the marathon. So again, after the pledge, please stay standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Mayor Dunleavy.
Here.
Councilmember Giusti.
Here.
Costa.
Here.
D'Amato.
Here.
Delariva.
Here.
Hudson. Here. Sondemire.
Here. Also with us, our municipal clerk, Jane McCarthy, and our borough attorney, Fred Semrau. This is an official meeting of the governing body of the Borough of Bloomingdale on January 4th, 2014. All the date, time, and location of this meeting was faxed and mailed to all local news media and posted here at Borough Hall. The first order of business tonight is a presentation to members of our search and rescue, and I'll give more specifics as I come off the dais. I ask the council if you would join me, please, off the dais. Okay. Good evening again, everyone. It's times like these, and every day we cherish and we speak highly all the time of all our volunteers in the borough. And it is special times like these that we get to honor our volunteers for exactly what they do in serving all of our residents. Tonight is a very special occasion. I'd like to first introduce the leader of our search and rescue and bring up Mr. Bernie Vroom, and a round of applause for Bernie as he... We are honoring our search and rescue team for, and our police officers for exactly that, the search and rescue they performed. And I'd like to invite the gentleman, Mr. Scott Holtzman, up, and your son Ian, who were rescued that day. And also, I'm sorry, is it Meredith?
Yeah.
Meredith, your Scott's fiancée, do you want to come on too,
sure.
please?
I wasn't there, but I'll...
She was there.
If you were there, they probably wouldn't have got lost. It's always safe to say. Again, we're here to honor those fine gentlemen, our team, police officers and search and rescue, who helped you out that day, you and Ian. And before I present certificates to all those involved, I'd like to defer to Bernie if you have any words you'd like to say.
Actually, I think we should open up to Scott.
And that was my next time.
So no, you first, I insist.
No,
Bernie's a man of few words.
explain what happened that night, and I'll take it from there.
That'd be great.
Yeah, no, I think it was, well, we went hiking, and I basically didn't really look at a map and thought that I could make a quick circle, and a quick circle ended up being 3 mountains later, and it got dark, and or it started to get dark, and I realized that like I had no shot of getting to my car, and even if I couldn't make my way back with the same way I came, and I called 911 and didn't even know there was such a thing as search and rescue, and so I think to try to make it concise, within an hour of when I called, I was found, and it happened. Part of that was luck, I think, because I was pretty close to an exit, but a lot of it had to do with the skill of the search and rescue team, and not just the skill of like that they knew the woods and they were able to find me very quickly, or us very quickly, but I think also like the way that they handled it was I just felt like I was like, they were so what was the word I'm looking for? Not efficient, but like they were very kind and loving and caring and very gentle, and the way that they spoke with me and the way that they dealt with me. And Ian, and of course they knew that I had a child involved. It was just really easy. Everything was really easy. Communication was easy, and the efficiency of like using the sirens and the town hall bell or something. It was just really amazing. I was really grateful that they were there, because I was, I was already feeling bad enough for getting me and my son stuck in the woods, and she was, worried from she was in Vermont at the time. Meredith was in Vermont, and so she was like, what's going to happen? Yeah, it was really just a fantastic experience, and it was actually like I'm really grateful for it, because we got to bond through that, Ian and I got to experience the town of Bloomingdale and what it has to offer, and the great people that it has, and yeah, and the guys, again, I can't say enough about how well the guys handled it.
Great.
Did you want to say something?
Scott, thank you for your kind words. Bernie?
Actually, Scott and I have had a lot of conversation since last year. We talked about an hour and a half on the phone prior to him coming in and talking to the governing body to make this presentation to us. Search and rescue is a very good function for a lot of different reasons. It's good for the borough, it's good for the people that we actually can assist. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, it all depends. We actually, we do a lot of different things. We work hand in hand with our police department, we couldn't do it without them. They're the lead agency. And the information they give us actually assists us in doing our jobs to the best of our abilities. So again, that's, you know, we've been in here before as search and rescue team members, but we never had the officers that were involved actually come in. So this is the first, and it should be here.
Yeah.
Again, it's a team effort. There's a lot of things that go into it. We get involved with a lot of agencies, as they'll tell you. And most people don't understand search and rescue and what it does, what it's capable of doing. So therefore, for us to help you out was a great thing. That's what we do. You know what I mean? And from the conversation, you've been back in those woods numerous times since utilities. And that's a good thing, because that means we really did our job. You shouldn't be afraid. Just respect where you're going. That's it. And with that.
Again, no, Bernie, thank you. And you know, the key is we by far have the finest police department anywhere, and the two patrolmen I'm going to introduce in a moment are two of our department who, again, overall our department is just an amazing group of men. And our search and rescue team, our volunteers, you know, like, all of our volunteer base, you know, just amazes me every day. They volunteer their time to do exactly what they did for you and anyone in need. So we're here tonight to thank all of you for just that. And I will begin. I'll read the inscription and present each individual. This is a certificate of appreciation. In sincere appreciation for your successful search and rescue efforts of Scott Holtzman and his son Ian at Northern Green State Forest on April 13, 2013, presented this day, April 15, 2014. And I'll begin with Patrolman Michael Fatzer. And then maybe take a picture with Scott and Ian at the search and rescue. And next we have, again, our fine patrolman, David Terpstra. And beginning with our search and rescue, first, as you've all met him already, and we know him well, and he's good friends of the borough, Mr. Bernie Broom. Thank you, Bernie. Next we have, again, I believe a lifelong resident, very dedicated individual to the borough, Mr. Kevin Randall. How are you? Good. Next gentleman volunteers on many levels in town. Matter of fact, I called upon him a lot this winter to help shovel out many seniors who were unable to in his Boy Scout capacity. And here we're tonight to honor him in his search and rescue capacity, Mr. Al St. John's. Now these next two gentlemen, boy, do they know the woods. Born and bred, and their entire families are here being raised in Bloomingdale. And the entire Miller family is a great asset to our borough. And I'll first honor Darren Miller. Harvey, I deliberately didn't go in age order. All you do, and all the Millers do, we now honor Harvey Miller. Tonight we will also honor and thank Mr. Butch Manell. switch. The last certificate, I don't see the gentleman with us, but we would want to give him a round of applause, and we do thank Mr. Chris Siddle as well. So again, we thank all of you. Scott, I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad we're
Thank you for wanting to be here. Ian, really glad you're here too. And enjoy the borough. I know you're not residing here, so enjoy the woods. It's an asset. It's truly a treasure for our borough. I'd ask if you guys would like to come in front of the dais, just the search and rescue officers and you guys, and take a few photos if anyone would like to. The council can resume to the dais. Thanks, Scott. Bernie, could you hold Chris? You can squeeze everybody.
We got close that night, we can get close again.
Guys, thank you again.
Thank you.
I just had one question. Do you know if this will be aired on TV? His mom wants to.
You know, try and get it out by, well, I can't guarantee when Jim will. Try and get it in Jim's hands by Thursday, because I'm flying out to. So there's a good chance from Friday all into next week, Channel 77, and it runs often. Yeah. It either runs once or twice a day on Channel 77, and it's available on our YouTube channel.
And Facebook.
And Facebook. Well, the link's good.
And so on the cable, is it only available in Bloomingdale municipality or in other municipalities?
No, it's only Bloomingdale. Okay. So public access is Bloomingdale Borough.
But you have it on
YouTube, yes.
Okay. Okay.
It's always a good thing.
Okay, great.
You find our Facebook page, you just post it right on there.
Scott, very nice meeting you.
Yeah,
Thanks
yeah,
for coming.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. See you soon, okay?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. You guys are good.
Thanks, guys.
You're more than welcome. Feel free. You're more than welcome. Thanks, Ness. I'm sure you still watching this. Always do. There's no need for an early executive agenda. We do have 3 items, non-agenda items, that I will mention in case the public wishes to speak to. The first is, as we do each year, introduction, in order to allow municipal appropriations limits and establish our cap bank. It allows us to bank, if we don't exceed our cap in the budget year, it allows you to bank that percentage that you may be on the cap for future years, maximum 2. So we'll be introducing that ordinance this evening. The second item is a resolution awarding our turf program. We're in the second year of a 3-year contract with Tri-State Fields, the amount of $27,900. And that will be done by resolution this evening, but again, it is an existing contract that was bid. And the third item will be declaring an emergency for drainage problem on Sandra Lane and a severely failed basin also on Sandra Lane. And having a heavy engineer working on it, it needs to be done expeditiously. If you haven't seen it, please do so. The basins have failed, they're not draining, and it needs to be addressed before we can introduce any capital funding, which would take up to 60 days. So we'll be declaring that an emergency. I have very ballpark prices in the range of $35,000. So please take a look at it. If you have any questions, you can call me tomorrow to the council. So again, cap bank ordinance, award of our turf program, and emergency declaring Sandra Lane and Vale Basin as well on Sandy Lane. Those are the 3 non-agenda items we'll be addressing this evening. Now I need a motion to open public comment.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone wishing to speak to an agenda item, please come on up, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, motion to close. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Professional reports. Jane, do you have anything for us?
Just one item that's listed on the agenda. May 13th is the last day to register to vote at the primary election, and our office will be open till 9 p.m.
Thank you. Fred, do you have anything for us?
Mayor, just for the next meeting, I'd like to have a short executive session regarding the settlement of a tax appeal. I'd like to brief the governing body on. And with regards to the tax appeals, the filing deadline is passed. And it's important that I tell the governing body that you may recall we had the revaluation 2 years ago. We had literally hundreds of appeals, which happens as a result of revaluation. But between the fact that the market is stabilized and the revaluation has really gone through the cycle, this year we had a total of 55 appeals. 10 of them are just repeat. They're pending under the tax court. So you really had 45 new tax appeals versus hundreds last year, and these are appeals that the assessor feels more comfortable in defending. So it's a sign of stabilized real estate market and values within the borough.
Thank you. So I do one question. Last meeting, we tabled the resolution to permit coin toss in the joint insurance fund, put out a bulletin on it.
Yes.
So I can carry it till the next meeting, but
Yeah,
you had access to the table that.
Yeah, because there's a step that's missing in that publication that needs to be addressed.
You'll address it with
Yes,
Jane?
yeah, positive approval from DOT in certain situations.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I just don't want to forget, sure. Okay. Any council member have anything, please?
I just had, I want to talk to everybody about the Sustainable New Jersey certification. We are set in hopes that we can make the June deadline. And we right now will be aiming for the bronze certification. That was brought to the attention of the council maybe back in 2009, John, I believe.
Yes.
And it kind of got dropped. So I've taken it over, and I think with some help of a few people, we should have it in June. You don't get your certification in June, but we should have everything submitted by the June deadline.
Right. Sustainable New Jersey is a program throughout the state that, actually on the agenda tonight, we're establishing our green team, which is part of that process. And that green team will be myself, Dawn, and our Environmental Commission Chairperson, Frank O'Reilly. And what it does, it's the efforts of going green, doing what's right, from recycling to energy efficiency, and you'd be quite shocked about the complexity of this program. And what it does for us is, besides the obvious of making us greener, is helps us when we go for various grants in that venue. It definitely gives you bonus points, in a sense, lack of a better word, when your application is being reviewed by DEP or any of those entities, being a sustainable municipality. So it's a lot of work. So I thank you, Dawn, for taking that on.
And I feel very confident that we will get the bronze certification once everything is reviewed. And I also feel very confident that we should be able to obtain the silver certification in a couple of years.
And it's ongoing. Even once you get gold or platinum, it's still forevermore. You're renewing those certifications. So it's a lot of work. And the county's being helpful, and Dawn's spearheaded that. So thank you. Anyone else?
I had a library meeting last night. Everything's fine there. They had their carpet the juvenile area put in last night, or a weekend, I guess it was.
Yes.
Thanks to the DPW.
Yeah, did a great job.
Yeah. So it's pretty much, the renovation is done now down there, so it looks wonderful.
It's real good.
The other thing I asked for was they're looking to see if they can put a picnic table. It's going to be donated from the Salvation Army out front on the grass. The program they do with the kids after school homework. There's other things going on in the library where they feel nice days, they feel go outside and sit on a picnic table and do that. Or anywhere else near, it doesn't have to be out front, just anywhere near here.
Okay. No, absolutely. I'll talk to the library director about basement. I'm not keen about the front. But,
Go to the senior center garden.
they have a garden in the senior center, possibly. All right, yeah, great. I'll,
Table's open.
excellent. Anyone else? We're good? Okay. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, which just consists of one item approving a block party on 41 Highland Avenue. Who makes that motion? So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pending business, there's two items, and the first is, I don't believe there's any action to be taken, but I'm leaving it on pending, so when it comes back to us. It's the update on the underage drinking ordinance that was referred to committee. I don't believe the committee has met.
No, the chief and our schedules have conflict.
Okay.
We have no.
Yeah, that's fine. We just want the chief's input. This is an ordinance lobbied by the Municipal Alliance via the county. A lot of municipalities have it, and we want to just do due diligence with the chief's input before we consider adopting the ordinance. I mean, the one thing is we have tools in place already to enforce such a thing, but this is a specific ordinance pertaining to it. The second item was the coin toss, which will be held as well. This is, we get a few requests annually for coin toss on usually a county road, but they're seeking borough permission. And it's been granted in the past, the county's approved it, but our joint insurance fund has just come out with a bulge and say, hey, let's pay a little more attention to this and put some rhyme and reason and some process into it, an application process, et cetera. So again, we'll wait on you. I think most of them are fall type events. Football does one, fire department does one, and the Municipal Alliance does one. So again, that'll carry, okay. New business. The first order of business is the adoption of resolution 2014.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. According to the order, we need to adopt.
Oh, the cap ordinance first?
We'll
Okay.
introduce the cap ordinance,
That's
which will be
fine.
5-2012.
Okay, so I need a motion to introduce cap ordinance 5-2014. Again,
And excuse me, he said we could have second and final reading and public hearing on May 6th.
okay. Thank you, Jane. And second and final on May 6th. Again, this is allowing us to establish a cap bank, which we do every year. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Del Ripa.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes. Sondemire.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
And that will be an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
Thank you. Okay, which leads me to our next item, which is adoption of resolution 2014 4.6, introduction of the 2014 municipal budget. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second. Is there any further discussion? The only item I have to second at the public hearing will be May 20th at 7 p.m. That's when we will give a full presentation on pretty much every line item in the budget, as Council President Yazdi does each year. And they'll show the residents exactly where every penny goes and to the point of what every department, every function of the borough, and specifically that function costs each taxpayer. Tonight is not the public hearing, but I will say that the introduction is flat. It is a 0% tax increase, municipal 2014. Does anyone have any other comment at this time?
Just a feeling of, gratitude. Okay, I'm thankful. Outside of being a council member, budget chair, I'm also a resident, right? And day one when I came to this council, this was what we were looking for. And to get here, 2 years ago we were sitting here with a $575,000 over cap. Last year we were able to, get it down to a $50 increase, and this year being down to zero, it's getting it done. And I thank each and every single one of you for doing your job and getting this done. So those are the only comments I have.
Yeah, and again, we'll talk in great detail on the 20th. The one other comment I have is we talked about tax appeals, and if there weren't for two factors, it potentially could have been a tax decrease. We had a $3 million loss of assessed value from appeals, as well as the winter, which was approximately $140,000 over budget, and we're still coming in zero. So those two things, aside, we're still in a good place. We've accumulated surplus. We're using some surplus this year, but still leaving quite a bit of surplus going into future years. So I look forward to the public hearing. We can address anyone's questions and really show it and fine tune where all the funding's going. So again, I do. thank the committee as well. Yeah.
No, if we're done, I want to thank all the financial people who were involved. I know they've done a lot of work, and I know Ray has put in, Councilman Effie has put in a lot of work as well, looking at this and making sure it all makes sense and is best for the borough. So I'd like to thank him as well.
Yeah, same goes for the committee as myself, Ray, and Councilman Del Ripa. Thanks to all of you, our treasurer, Sherry Gallagher, and our auditors, Joe Facone, who just big help in the process. So, if no other discussion, a roll call, please.
Councilmembers D'Amato.
Yes.
Del Ripa.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Sotomayor.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
Okay, we introduced the budget, now we pay the bills. The next item, I need Resolution 2014 4.7, payment of the borough bills. Who makes that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Del Ripa.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Sotomayor.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Okay, the next item will be adoption of Resolution 2014 4.8 through 4.15. These are payment of tax office resolutions, tax title lien certificates, as stated on the agenda, and one state tax court refund. Who makes that motion, please? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Hudson.
Yes.
Sotomayor.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Del Ripa.
Yes.
Thank you. Item D on the agenda is discussion of tax assessor legislation. There was legislation proposed in Gloucester County, a pilot program put in place where the county was going to have a bigger input on the tax assessor role. But in lieu of having municipalities not have local tax assessors, they did a pilot program to almost prove the point that the local tax assessors were still needed, in a sense. Fred can help me on this too. What this was is that they're really pushing for 100% to valuation, but rather than every 10 years or court order from the Division of Taxation to do a revow, this legislation would require a town to do 1/5 of its town every year over a 5-year period. Now, there's good parts, there's pros and cons. The one con is you'd have to budget every year a portion of a revow. When we did our revow, it was almost $40,000. So not that it would be 1/5 of that, you hope the cost would be lower, but it could potentially be, $30,000, $40,000 annually. My problem with it was inside cap. It was not outside cap to give that flexibility. Number one. The pro is though that the appeal deadline would be in January, and the benefit would be that right now, for those who don't know, after we hear all our tax appeals and some reductions, some stay the same, the bottom line is, which we just did on the motion before, when we give a tax redemption, the Board of Ed piece is not paid by the Board of Ed. It is paid purely, solely by the municipality. So, that said, this new legislation would require the Board of Ed piece to be paid back by the Board of Ed. In essence, it's before they've adopted their budget. Where our state counties assessors' offices, they recently tabled their next step of proceeding with the process. So, Fred, maybe help me where it goes from there. I pretty much summed it up. I mean,
Right. What happens is the legislation gives the right to make this decision to the tax assessor. And if 2/3 of the assessors vote for this, then the municipality is bound by it. And what I think Brian Townsend wanted to do was, he contacted myself, he contacted the mayor to say, look, I'm not really prepared to vote on this and bind the town, but I want you to be made aware of it if it comes back up, because a few weeks ago, they were very close to making a decision on that. And as the mayor said, I mean, it's just something to keep in mind, because the pros are that the tax appeals at the county board would be resolved before you strike the tax rate, so the Board of Education pays the share of refunds, which is, otherwise, for every dollar you spend on refunds, there's what, like 40 cents you're going to pay for the board. The other side is a lot of people say they like this partial revaluation, 20% of the town. But the downside to that is sometimes individuals who are not, like if there's a big fluctuation in the market and you say, well, how come this one lake community is part of that 20% and I'm next door and I'm outside of that? then you have a lot of residents saying there's some kind of inequity here, that part of the town was reappraised and part wasn't. But then, again, the argument is, over a 5-year period, everybody gets that revaluation or that reassessment. So all that is a backdrop, and I think right now, they've decided, it was very close to going forward, but now I think the assessors and the county have decided to not go forward with a vote this year. So I think if it would come up again, probably Brian Townsend would want to come back and let everybody know. But it is interesting because the legislation said your tax assessor can make this decision for you. And fortunately, Brian didn't want to come back and tell you I voted, and this is how I voted. He wanted to make sure that, everyone would be educated on it if it were to happen.
Just to give you an update, and I'll keep you informed as I know more. Thank you. Next item, adoption resolution 2014 4.16. This is authorization for submission of our municipal alliance grant for 2014-15. Who makes that motion? Second. Thank you. And any further discussion? As you know, this is our funding via the county for our municipal alliance alcoholism and drug abuse prevention program. This is just an outstanding program. Cindy Hopper is our current municipal alliance coordinator, and her and her committee just do an outstanding job. The amount of the grant is $16,792, of which there's a cash match locally with fundraising and things they do of $4,100, so the net is $12,500. And as you all know, they put this money to great use. Recently we had the drug and alcohol awareness basketball game with police, fire, first and school teachers, which are just an outstanding evening. And that's just one of many, many nights they put on for our adults and primarily our children. So we're authorizing that application this evening. Any other comment?
Just
yes.
the amount of work that was put in, especially by the police department, and Detective Caputo, the presentation he did in front of the
Dan Green.
It was just outstanding. And Officer Caputo to put that presentation and do an interview of a person that's in trouble to say, and show our youngsters, our parents, what could happen if you're not aware of what's going on and pay attention to your kids. It was fantastic.
It was quite the evening. Roll call.
Councilmember Sondermeyer.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Okay. Next is adoption resolution 2014 4.17. It's establishing a green team committee to complete our process and begin our process of Sustainable New Jersey, which, as Councilwoman Hudson mentioned earlier, we will achieve our bronze status by June. Part of that is establishing a green team, so I need a resolution approving the green team, which will consist of myself, Councilwoman Hudson, and Frank O'Reilly of our Environmental Commission. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa. Tomato.
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Sondermeyer.
Yes. Thank you. Next is adoption resolution 2014 4.18. This is again submitting our recycling tonnage grant application. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay. And discussion, we average 10 to 14,000 a year on this grant application. The DPW super has done a good job in getting this revenue up over the past 6 years, from the range of $5,000 to $6,000 to more than double. So thank you for that, and we're authorizing that application. Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Costa.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes. Sondermeyer.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Okay, we had 3 non-agenda items. One we've addressed on the cap bank, establishing cap bank. The other 2 are, I need a motion, a resolution 2014 4.19, declaring the failed drainage system on Sandra Lane an emergency and have that remedied immediately. Again, the verbal quote I received to date, I'm not putting the dollar amount in the resolution, is $35,000. But we're declaring an emergency so we can proceed. And again, I ask you to all look at this site. You'll see the dire need of its repair. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion?
We identify where the funds are?
Well, no, this would, I think when it's an emergency, it would either be a separate, note, or if we do further capital at a later date, it could be part of that. Or if we would just cancel capital.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Were we looking at drainage?
Right, there was 1,700 left in that.
Well, that's not going to help.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Councilmembers D'Amato.
Yes.
Del Rippe.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Sandemeyer.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes. And the final item of new business is adoption of resolution 2014 1.19. This is again awarding,
No.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, 20. Awarding our annual award turf program to Tri-State Fields. This is the second year renewal, which the contract will expire in 2015. We now have $27,900 for all our field maintenance, beginning to end, all seasons. And who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Del Rippe.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Sandemeyer.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I need a motion to open the late public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak, please come on up, state your name and address for the record.
Linda Huntley, 86 Vandamme Avenue. I'm questioning this law that the ordinance you're going to be passing for the vacant building registration.
Yes.
First of all, I think if you do pass this, if any company was to come in and redevelop Main Street, and they have vacant buildings, as does Butler, then they're going to have to pay this registration fee. I think it's a good way to deter companies from coming in to Bloomingdale to redevelop it all. I also think anyone that wants to build a house, if they have a choice to build it here or someplace else, they're not going to build it here because why would they if they're going to get fined if they have to move? A lot of times people have to relocate and their house will stay vacant. I mean, these houses that are vacant are not sitting there vacant because people don't want to sell them. I mean, maybe a couple of pieces of property in town where we know they just don't want to sell them, but the majority of people want to sell it and they also want to rent these properties. And just sit there and tell these companies, places now that you're going to be penalizing them for not doing what they want to do, I just think is
Well,
wrong.
if I may address your comment, the intent is to bring accountability to the 20 or so homes we have vacant from foreclosure, where the banks have no accountability.
So
No
it's going to
accountability
be for foreclosure?
No, it applies to all vacancies. But for the small amount of the example you raised, I believe the paramount issue is these other vacancies, many of which we all know, many of which, we constantly have DPW do work and place liens on these homes. Again, I believe the aim here is to bring accountability from a property maintenance standpoint, and have these banks take action. And
Well, maybe
the position of the ordinance review.
Maybe you should address places that are in foreclosure or maybe companies that are not openly trying to sell the properties. Because otherwise you're penalizing, and people aren't going to want to build here. I mean, why would you build in a town where you're going to penalize if you can't rent everywhere?
And I appreciate your comments. I don't think, if you look at our history, I think we need something to be the catalyst to do exactly what you're saying, and I believe this will be that. I think it will do the exact reverse effect of what you're saying.
But you think the barber's place has been vacant for how long? It's not vacant because they don't
You mean
rent it.
Frank the Barber?
Frank the Barber.
Right, but that's the whole building, percentage-wise, that wouldn't be considered a vacancy, because it's one building. That's one unit in 6 units.
What about Avalon Bay? Where they don't have, where they're
Again,
rent?
it's a percentage. We're talking about a single-family structure or single-unit commercial entity that has sat vacant for a number of years, and in poor condition is really the aim here to fix that.
But maybe it should be tweaked a little bit to specifically address something that's in poor condition or something that's in foreclosure or something, so it doesn't deter businesses and people from wanting to live.
I'll bring that to the review committee. Do you have any comment on that?
No, we can certainly take a look at it. I think it is addressed, but I
Yeah, well, that's fine.
go back to where we come from.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the case of new construction, the timer wouldn't start until a CO.
Until CO is issued, correct.
Right.
When they don't,
Right.
like Butler, those buildings are vacant for a couple of years now. And
That'll be considered one unit, the
Right.
ones that are already.
Out of the whole complex.
Right, one storefront. It's
there's a
one.
number of them that are vacant, and if we have that, I mean, that's a deterrent.
Right. Well, I'll address the concern. I think your point is well taken on You know, someone who may just vacate, I'm trying to think of an example on Main Street. See, there aren't many, because even when the candy shop for Frank Barber was, it wouldn't fall under this ordinance, because the building itself is percentage-wise with the apartments upstairs and the retail downstairs is
Bank
still
of
on.
America that closed.
Bank of America is an example where it would apply. And that could light a fire for the owner of that to do something with it.
But what if they are, I mean, they could very well be trying to, they just can't.
And maybe more of an incentive
But
to
then why would someone want to buy
possibly
it?
maybe
anyway?
reduce that rent $50 a month to make it more.
But then why, maybe you could rent it, but nobody would want to buy it then.
Okay. Good.
Though we're really talking about properties that are uninhabitable, to, that really need attention. Somebody's properties, they can always do the necessary remediation to bring it up to a standard too, and that helps the aesthetics and the entire community by doing that.
But having them register
Right.
brings accountability to the whole process. That was the goal of it. So, but thank you. Any other questions or
Yeah, I
comments?
just got a question on that particular issue.
Sure.
Al Miller, 7 Mary Street, Bloomingdale. The funds collected from this registration, what's that money going to be used to help maintain some of these buildings, or the owners don't maintain?
Well, the funds, like any revenue, just become a revenue into the budget. I mean, the ordinance doesn't specify where those funds would go. It's no different than any permit fee or kind
I'm just curious, the fact is that, I have a house next to me that's been vacant for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's, they don't maintain it the way it should be, the grass is not cut, it's not done. But I'm just saying, if the borough's gonna make this money off of this registration process, could the money be used, put back into this to help keep these houses cleaned up and maintained to a degree?
It certainly can. As of now, the ordinance was introduced with the construction department as the entity in charge of this process, and that may change. I mean, we're reviewing whether it's going to be construction or property maintenance. Either way, it's the same as a permit fee, where that money goes into construction's budget as a revenue. To answer your question, it sure could be used. Like right now, and I believe, is the house you're referring to on Real and Ave?
No, I live on Mary Street.
Okay, right, I didn't know, but there's the one consistent problem on.
Well, I
Real and-
know which way you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, luckily enough, I don't live by that house.
Right, where our DPW, when it gets that bad, they have cut the grass, and they have, because you have to from a public health and safety.
No, I agree.
So that these funds possibly could be used to offset that cost. Right now, we're just building an account, and when it gets to a point worthwhile to go after a lien, we do so. But yeah, it's a frustrating process.
Sure, the process today, how aggressively do we pursue these people to maintain this property? I know that the house next to me has now been taken over by, there's a sign on the door, it's been taken over by Fannie Mae.
And I think, Mr. Miller, that's really the purpose of this ordinance, because as it presently stands, the town is a bit restricted. This gives, some additional teeth to address something that's, as the mayor said, in foreclosure. But right now, it's too much of a gray area to take that type of initiative. This starts to lay out the process and protect the process if we want to go forward and address properties such as that. If it's been taken over or there's a lien holder that has the property. That's the overall
Well,
objective.
just start with, today, what's the process today? I have this house next to me by Fannie Mae, what does the construction office, letters?
I'll address your question.
What do they do with it?
Our property maintenance official
Yes.
addresses it, the usual example of that particular house that's owned by a bank. They'll go to the tax office and try to identify who's the most recent registered owner of that property.
Okay.
Send them a notice of compliance. When that notice is not addressed, we'll send a summons to appear in court. When that court date comes and goes, the judge then issues, the summons to that bank. And it just gets tacked on to the list of liens that most of these properties are encumbered with. You'll be surprised, though, how many of these are still owned by the individual who haven't been foreclosed.
Oh, sure.
And, Joe Smith, whatever his name is, whoever owns that house, these people have just disappeared. We have no forwarding addresses.
I walk where they're gone. I think the house is agreed with.
The house in Real, it is like that. We've had success, though, where we've had banks come in, send a property maintenance company, do some maintenance, drain the pool, things to that effect. We've also had our utility department drain the pool for public health and safety. So it's an extremely frustrating process, because you're just banging your head against the wall to get compliant, to the point where I send DPW just to deal with it for the resident, the neighbor's sake. But there is a process, and it's frustrating. I mean, you're not going to get Wells Fargo in municipal court on a $75, cut your grass summons. So that just goes to the lien and processes, and eventually when it's closed,
my position here, if I want to keep it clean and maintained, I just keep complaining to the borough. I mean, sooner or later, you guys will send up the road department, you'll cut the grass.
And has DPW touched that property? I thought they did last year.
I think he did once, yeah. The owner made some kind of arrangement with two different people. The grass was getting cut like once every 3 weeks or something like that. I don't.
Give me that. I know I have it in my folder. Give me that house number.
I'm 7 Mary. I think it's 3 Marys. I
remember we had this conversation last year.
Summer's here, the grass is going to grow.
It's a big deal.
It's a corner house, and it just, it looks bad. Thank you.
Yeah, there's one on Leary that's ongoing, that actually affects Leary and Ryerson because the backyard goes across the court. But again, the ordinance is a start and try to give us a little more teeth, as they say. Anyone else? Seeing no one, motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there's no late executive session at this time. Governing body schedules as shown, May 6th, the work session, May 20th, regular, and be a public hearing on the adoption of the budget. As Jane mentioned, May 13th, last day to register for primary, office open until 9 p.m. Any motion to adjourn? Sorry?
He's due to Sunday. Saturday.
Saturday, Walter T. Bergen, 12 o'clock is the Easter egg recreation, Easter egg.
Trout next weekend.
And trout contest, 26th, 10 a.m. at Bow. Thank you, Mike, for reminding me of that. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.